There are three situations in which Primaquine becomes important. Now, the first situation looks something like this. There is a patient in whom the diagnosis of non-falciparum malaria has been confirmed. So, probably with Plasmodium vivax or ovale. Hypnozoites will have to be dealt with, otherwise there is a high risk of relapse later. This patient is actively suffering from the symptoms of malaria. Now, we know that in such a situation in India, chloroquine is given on days 1, 2 and 3 at doses of 600, 600 and 300 milligrams respectively. We know that Primaquine is also given at a dose of 15 milligrams for 14 days. Now here, the rationale of giving Primaquine is that Primaquine is the only drug which acts on hypnozoites and therefore can eliminate the risk of relapse in future. So, Primaquine is used here to eliminate hypnozoites in a situation where the person is actively suffering from malaria and a lab diagnosis of non-falciparum malaria is confirmed. This is called radical cure. Now, there is a second situation where Primaquine can be used. This is where a diagnosis of falciparum malaria is confirmed and the person is actively suffering from symptoms of malaria. Now, what is the role of Primaquine here? We know that for the treatment of uncomplicated falciparum malaria, whether it is in a northeastern state or in other states, we give Primaquine on the second day as a single dose at a dose of 45 milligrams. We know that falciparum malaria does not give rise to hypnozoites. But here the rationale of Primaquine, the rationale of giving Primaquine is to attack the gametocytes and thus prevent transmission. Primaquine is not given here for its activity against hypnozoites, and it is definitely not going to be given for its for any effect on clinical symptoms of malaria which are caused by merozoites. Remember, Primaquine does not have any effect against merozoites and therefore will be useless for ongoing symptoms. Now, if we do not give this patient Primaquine, and if this patient is bitten by another mosquito, gametocytes from that patient can enter the new mosquito, and these gametocytes will eventually become sporozoites in that mosquito. If that mosquito bites another human being, it can transmit malaria to that other human being. It is to prevent this that Primaquine is given in this particular situation. Finally, in a person who has traveled from a non-endemic area to a highly endemic area for malaria and then has returned to the non-endemic area, let us say this patient never developed any symptoms. Now, the reason for giving Primaquine in this patient is as follows. The person may have been infected with vivax or ovale but never developed symptoms. In such a situation, his liver might be harboring hypnozoites that could cause a relapse of malaria later in life. There is no lab confirmation here, and all this is based on presumption. Here, Primaquine is used to eliminate possible hypnozoites in a situation where the person is not actively suffering from malaria and a lab diagnosis of non-falciparum malaria isn't possible. This is called terminal prophylaxis, otherwise called presumptive anti-relapse therapy. There is a fourth situation in which Primaquine may be used, and that is in causal prophylaxis, but this is rarely mentioned because Primaquine is very, very rarely used for this particular indication.